I'd like to come back to strategic thinking
Mm-hmm.
and practicing that so that it becomes a habitual way of thinking. And if we think of leadership, think of a destination, because to lead you have to set direction.
Right.
So to set direction, you've got to have a destination. So where
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to get to. So it comes back to the 6 questions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is it that I want?
Yep.
And that being your destination. And that could be today, it could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year, it could be, I mean, for me, I sat down in 91 when I realized that I just had to pack up trying to play competitively, and I sat down with a piece of paper and a pen and I wrote down what I wanted to achieve as a coach. And nobody had ever heard of me. I sat in my parents' house in the UK, and I don't come from a privileged background, so it's a very modest house.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just drafted out what I wanted to achieve, and I just broke it down into steps. And in doing that is I was getting clear on where I wanted to get to. This might sound remarkable to the people on the call, but I didn't see there being any quick journey to this. So I set down that I wanted to become an international coach, and I set down a timeline of 10 years. Well, that stage, I think I was about 25, maybe 26,
yeah,
maybe a bit younger. And so I wrote that down, and because when I looked at it, you know, I didn't have any position in cricket.
mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't have any position as a coach. It was literally, it was my ultimate, it was my dream goal. And I wrote it down, and then I just came back and I broke it down into steps. And I thought, okay, well, what's the first coaching certification, which I need? What's the second one? And then I timelined that, and I said, okay, well, in the next year, I need to get this coaching certification. And then I need to work with that certificate so it can become practical. And then the year after, I'd like to do my next coaching certification. And I need experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was already doing some coaching in the UK. So I wanted a coaching opportunity overseas, out of season, hence, you know, riding away to South Africa. And I would say to the people, to the audience, is don't be shy. I wrote to the top guy in South African cricket.
Yeah.
And I did that because I didn't want a middle person making a decision on me. So it'd be a little bit like writing to, I don't know, president of the country. You know, this guy was the CEO of South African cricket. And wonderfully, he wrote back. And I actually got to know him in later years. And I said, you know what, you won't remember this, but I wrote to you and you wrote back. Obviously, he dictated a letter to his secretary. And I got to know his secretary because she worked at the same organization later. And I said to her, Diane, you're not going to believe this, but you actually wrote me a letter. And so I cut out all the middlemen so I could get an answer. And so I set direction. So I was taking ownership. I was taking ownership of where I wanted to get to. And in doing that, I was taking responsibility for becoming my own leader.
Right.
I wasn't leaving it to anybody else. And so when we talk about leadership, you've got to be able to lead yourself first.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Critical. So we use those 6 questions. Those questions are free. You know, they are, you don't have to buy them. You don't have to go on the internet and purchase them in a subscription anywhere. You don't have to go to the local shop. They are free. You just need to exercise your imagination. And you used a great phrase earlier. You said, what if? So, you know, you might think, okay, well, what do I aspire to? And then you might think, oh, I don't think I can achieve that. And I'd say, well, what if? Why not?
Why not?
And so we have to be able to lead ourselves. And I think the most important part of leadership, because really it's just those 6 questions. And it's all just breaking it down into time.
Right.
And being very present. You know, like with Zach Lane, he didn't try and bowl the ball over 22 yards. He tried 6 inches.
Yeah.
And so, and every time we achieve a really small goal, the brain releases dopamine and it goes, wow, I enjoyed that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that imprints it. And so when that happens, that imprint gets stronger. The synapses in the brain, that connection gets stronger and stronger every time we do that. And so we go 6 inches, 12 inches, 18 inches. We don't go 22 yards. We don't try and hit a tiny target. We just do what is within our control and just a little bit more, not too much. And so we use those 6 questions. And then for me, when we're clear on that, the most important bit is our moral compass. And this is universal. It doesn't matter whether you grow up in Pakistan, Canada, South Africa, wherever you may be. It doesn't matter what your faith is, because it's exactly the same in every faith.
Correct.
These are universal principles.
Correct.
And in some faiths, you will get your principles handed down to you, you know, like the 10 Commandments.
Mm-hmm.
But those principles are your GPS, and they guide your journey every single step of the way. And when you adhere to those principles, you can't go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are honest and you act with integrity and you act with compassion and you act with self-discipline, is you can achieve whatever you want. And if you digress from those principles and you, in pursuing your goal, you transgress and you do something illegal or you compromise somebody else, is then you are going to hit speed bumps.
Mm.
You're going to be driving out onto the rumble strips on the side of the highway. And so, you know, when I look at leadership, and it's not about people who are famous, it's about the people in your community and people who are great role models in your community. It's not necessarily the people on TV. It's about those who contribute, those who serve, those who are generous. And that to me is great leadership. And if people, again, if you just write down what you believe to be true, you know, write down the stuff which is important. And I'm not a fan of values, because I think values are very rubbery.
Mm-hmm.
I think that principles are like gravity. They are immutable. There is a law there.
Right.
And you can't transgress that law. And it doesn't matter. And that would have helped me whether I coach in Pakistan, Bangladesh, West Indies, South Africa, you name it. Doesn't matter what community you're in. Is those principles are exactly the same. You steal from anybody in those communities, we know right and wrong.
Yeah.
So that's got nothing to do with culture. That's got nothing to do with faith. You know, so that's part of our humanity. And Omer, that to me is leadership.